Welcome back to This Week, where I sit down with local Republican voices working to take California back from the authoritarian Democrat regime that's been running this state into the ground for the last 60 years. Today's guest is David Bolog, a grassroots advocate and a regular presence in Sacramento, where he's testified on numerous bills impacting families, education, and public safety. David represents Moms for Liberty, Serving Family Values, Informed Alhambra, TOPS, that's taxpayer oversight for parents and students, as well as several other parent rights and legal organizations. He's become one of the most consistent citizen voices pushing back against Democrat insanity in Sacramento, calling them out directly and organizing others to do the same. Welcome, David.
Hello, Dennis. Thank you. I like that introduction.
You like the intro?
Yeah, it's nice.
That's good.
Very nice.
I'm glad you like it. So tell me, every time we end up meeting each other at one of these Republican events, you're always coming back from Sacramento. You're always testifying. So what's the latest you've done out in Sacramento?
So I'm up there Tuesday and Wednesday. I made it a goal to go up there. Well, I've set up my schedule at work to take off Tuesday and Wednesday because that's usually when the meat of the bills are going on up there. They have most of the committee hearings. Mm-hmm. One thing that I worked on recently, I testified, was a bill, AB 350, and what it does allow for people that are on Medi-Cal, lower income people, children specifically, from 6 to 21, to get topical fluoride treatment paid for by the government. And I was like hesitant. I'm against water fluoridation. I've been in that fight since 1990. Oh, actually, we'll go back to 1975. I was 5 years old. The city of LA they were deciding they were going to fluoridate the water, and the city council members thought, like, well, this is really controversial. We better allow it to go to the voters. And the voters made the decision not to. And that's where I learned, like, at 5 years old, like, don't swallow your toothpaste because it has the fluoride, and the fluoride's a poison.
Yeah.
So
there's studies that shows it affects your IQ.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So fast forward to 1995, the state legislators decides that they're going to have not fluoride not mandated, but that you have to keep record of if you're doing it or not. And if you want to, that municipality or that water district, the way the law is written is that they don't pay for it. Somebody else has to pay for it to get it going. I think the first year, and I don't know about after that. I think actually the law is written where somebody else outside of the district has to pay for it. Yeah. Crazy way that it was written. Yeah. But like City of LA pays for it themselves. And I remember there was a group that actually tried to sue to stop them, but they didn't have a good lawyer. I actually met up with this guy like 6 months ago at a testimony that I did at the LA Department of Water and Power. Anyways, I'm getting off face here. Yeah. So this bill, like, we fought to like stop this bill from happening because we knew it would be water fluoridation in the state. And that was like my first real jump into Sacramento. And I visited my district's assembly member, my senator. I wrote a letter to each, and I actually made a phone call, which I find out now that's just not enough. I mean, you really have to pound on these people if you want to make some change. Interesting. One of the things that they said the reasoning was, and this still goes on to this day. Poor people of color couldn't afford to get their own fluoride.
Really?
Oh yeah, and at that time in 1995. A tube of toothpaste was anywhere from 69 to 89 cents. Yeah. And you can go in the high-end stores, it'd be $1.29 to $2.59, real expensive, like $4.29. Yeah. But like everybody had fluoride toothpaste. It was just like a common thing, no matter how poor you were. People on the streets, I remember, at certain parts of my life, I came across people that were homeless. They always had toothpaste in their bags. Yeah. So it was like, this is ridiculous, reason for it. Assembly passed it against the judgment of everybody that came up there, and I didn't go up there because I was younger at the time. But they passed it, and then I went into, it was up to the municipalities at that point in time to decide how they did it, how they were going to do it. I remember going in; it was '98. Went into LA City Hall to testify against it, to be against it, and I remember the suits of the lobbyists. Wow. And this was a time when, like, so I'm wearing a suit now that's cheap. It's a polyester suit. It's $100. It's not that nice, but you used to be able to get suits down at the alley downtown. That's where I got this for like $169, and they were wool suits. And even like the former mayor at the time, Antonio Villaraigosa, he talked about how he got his suits down there because he dressed nice, but he knew the chick was the tie that you wore. It was always the tie. That was like the accent. Because even like this cheap suit, it's like you can get away with it, even though it's a cheap suit. But you feel it, wearing it. And if you look real closely, it's like, yeah, that's a cheap suit, compared to when you see one that's nice. So anyways, that's what I recognized with those lobbyists that came from the American Dental Association that went and paid for the initial installment for the city of LA and for the city of Santa Monica. The suits there were like $5,000 suits. And you could see it. They were, and that was 1998 money. It was a really nice suit. So city of LA implemented it. Now, what I don't remember was what the exact amount that we were putting in. They do it now. It's at the optimum level of water fluoridation. If you think it's a good idea, is 0.7, so 0.7 of a milligram per liter of water. I think at the time it was 1.0 or 1.2, but the maximum that was suggested by the EPA was 1.5 milligrams per liter. So that was like, and that's now proven to be really, really dangerous to people's IQs and health because, like any medicine, fluoride is it's toxic. It is a poison. It's actually not fluoride that they use in the water. It's hydrofluorosilicic acid, which is a byproduct of the fertilizer industry. When they're processing the fertilizer, they have to scrub it, and this is like what's left over. So this is like the conspiracy theory of like water fluoridation. It's actually a waste product. And instead of getting rid of it, they make money from selling it. So
it's so crazy because I've heard the podcast where RFK went on, and he talks a lot about what ends up either being put in our water or the runoff that gets into our water, how atrazine ends up getting into our water and all this stuff. And you would never imagine that a group of lobbyists would have the effect to pass something that I guess even as far back as 95, there was already an understanding that it was bad for your health, right?
Oh, and from like 48 when they started original studies of it.
Exactly. So there's an understanding back to 48, but I guess their influence or the money in it was so big for them that they were able to use this racial argument to just do something that was against the public good.
To this day, Dennis, I was up in the elections assembly here, and one of the witnesses for Senator Umberg, a bill that he had to change the time that they do the Board of Education elections. They do it like on off primaries, so it's like an off time when people don't vote. Lady used that people of color thing of like why you need to change it because they don't vote during that time. It's like everybody has the same opportunity to vote no matter how much melanin you have in your skin. It does not matter. So it was like that was still used as like the other day, just like this past week, somebody used it up in the assembly election committee. So getting back to fluoride, we've gotten down to this point of 0.7 milligrams per liter. 2016, there's something called the Toxic Substance Act. I don't have the name complete. Anyways, they changed the rules in Congress where now you can file a complaint with the EPA on a toxic substance. And if you don't like the way it came out, you can file a lawsuit against them and bring it to court, like what your regress is. Food and Water Watch did that in 2016, started the process, made the complaint, ends up this court case, goes to court, ends up September of last year, a judge by the name of Edward Chen, he's an Obama appointee, rules that, I forgot exactly how it is, preponderance that it is harmful to humans and to the environment. And it says the reason why that is at 0.28, which is less than half of what they put in the water, of that amount of fluoride found in a pregnant mother's urine, that it will bring the IQ down of a child or an infant. And this is from in utero to 2 years old, to 2 points.
Wow.
So what we're talking about right now is 4 points. But that's been proven in court. So I said this in this testimony. I decided to testify against it. I wasn't sure. Like,
and this is your last testimony?
This is just recent. This was just, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was Assemblymember Bonta. It was in the Senate Health Committee. It's already gone through the Assembly, and I was like, kind of, I don't know, because I have to pick and choose. There's so many pieces of legislation. What am I going to testify against? So I decided, I'm going to go and do it anyways, and just to see. And I didn't do the best testimony because I left out what the conclusion of the court was. And the reason I brought that whole story up is because you had these two doctors from the ADA, American Dental Association, which is a trade group for dentists. Their job is to support and speak on behalf of the dentist. And they're selling this treatment as it's good for these kids. Where in reality,
this is recent. This is
just
they're talking about how fluoride in the water is good.
They're saying that, but they were saying misinformation, and this administration's doing this, and it's
they're basic. Are they attacking RFK or are they?
No, they were just kind of like it was just words to misinformation and the
using
administration.
Buzzwords.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like what I forgot to say to them was, what I didn't say to these gentlemen over here. They're representing dentists. The care of those children that are going to get this treatment is not so important. What's important to them is the money that these dentists are going to get. Because in the reality, that's what it's going to be after the administration cost to the state, the cost of the product to the dentist, and then after they apply it, that's profit for them.
Yeah, I think what you just described is how pervasive big pharma is in all these aspects, in all these different facets of government, right?
Oh,
I mean, even in these in testimonies at local legislatures, they're active. They have two people, like you said, they're lobbying in favor of these things. It's very interesting to see because you hear about this, but you never really see like a concrete example of how that influence is exercised, right? It always feels like this mythical thing, right? It always feels conspiratorial, big pharma, but this is how it's done.
Oh yeah, we have to show up to see how it happens. And that's what I've gotten an advantage of going up to Sacramento is seeing how it happens. So I brought that up because I prefaced it with saying I mentioned all the harmful effects of fluoride on people. And I said, are you going to believe me? You would believe these doctors naturally, as opposed to just some guy coming in here. But let me tell you about this court ruling. What I failed to tell them was that the judge has ruled that the EPA has to make a ruling one way or another. It can be as little as just put out a warning to outright banning it. But the EPA has to do something about it. The EPA hasn't. So it's what is, that was in September. The Biden administration didn't touch it. And now the Trump administration, they still haven't touched it. So we don't even know which way they're going to go on that.
And why do you think the EPA is just kind of taking their time with it?
I have no idea. Maybe I've tried to reach out to them to talk to them. I don't know why it is. I'd like to know. I mean, I can make assessments and say, well, does it have to do with industry? Who's their supporters?
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyways, my testimony was a little half. I didn't get in a lot of things because I was going to say about these dentists, these two guys over here, they can say what I'm saying is misinformation, but 20 years ago, they were putting mercury fillings into people's mouth and saying it was safe.
Yeah.
And everybody knows that, because then when you put those mercury fillings in, they're amalgam, they're composites of, not composite, but they're amalgamation of different metals. 40 to 50% of it's mercury.
Yeah.
You chew on it, the little bit of vapor comes out that you breathe in. Now, you don't hear people talking about mercury in fish anymore because the thing with mercury is you've got to get
mercury
the fumes.
Poisoning. Yeah.
Well, it goes through your body. If you have if you took salt and mercury and swallowed it through a fish in it, it would just is disposed to your body. It's not going to cause you harm. A lot, that's not. That's
but if it's installed in your tooth, it's different.
You're chewing on it every time, and you get a little fume come off. Yeah. So that was. So I'm going to follow that through to the appropriations because how it works is it gets introduced. The Rules Committee says, all right, this is an education bill. We'll send it to education. Or with the things of girls' sports in education, they actually decided to push it to the arts, sports, and entertainment, which is an actual committee, which usually has to do with motion pictures, big concerts.
So wait, the trans boys or trans girl, male to female trans into girl sports went to the arts and education.
Arts and sports. Yeah.
Why specifically that one? What's
because
the logic?
It's sports. I mean, it's up to
because sports are considered entertainment.
Because it is arts, entertainment, tourism, and sports.
Oh,
is the name of the committee. So it's this long committee that covers all this, which I've never seen happen before. They decided to do this. I think the reason why the chair of it is Chris Ward, who is a assembly member down in San Diego, ran unopposed. He's the one who puts forth a lot of different legislation that will protect doctors and kids from their identity being exposed if they come from another state, because
Gotcha.
this state now is a trans sanctuary state where people can come from other states. And if like, say like the father wins custody, the mother can take the kid, kidnap him, bring him here. And because they're transitioning him, they can't honor like a custody suit or a warrant to bring the kid back to, I forget, an expedition charge, bring him back to the other state.
Yeah.
Because California does not honor it by state code. Nobody has taken that up to the higher courts yet.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And
that's absurd.
And so what they're trying to do, what this guy has done, he's set it up to where you can hide like the identity of the kid. That was his bill a couple of years ago, AB 223, where you can change the name and nobody knows it, and then they seal the records. So you can't even find out where your kid is if it gets taken away, and you find out he's in California. You do in record searches like, oh, that name's not here. It can be a completely different name then.
Yeah. So what you're telling me is basically they kind of get these bills, and because we have pretty much a Democrat, one-party authoritarian rule in our state legislature, they kind of just target somebody who is on the side of the issue that they are ideologically, who will protect their ideology.
Right. Well, they're all, they're
all on the same side.
There is times when you see them debate like the merits of certain things. That happens. It's rare, but it happens. So that's why I think to ask you, why did they put it there? I mean, they can do whatever they want. They're elected. All of a sudden they have this body. That body creates the rules of how they do things. They create who's gonna be the leader of that, the speaker of that house with the assembly. It's the Senate pro tem on the Senate side. And from that guy assigns who's everybody going to be. He assigns the guy who's going to be the rules, and the rule guy says it's going to this committee. Doesn't have to have a reason, but that's like the logical reason why, they try to make it, seem like it has some sense, but they pretty much can do what they want. And they said, unless there's been legislation that's been changed, like there's a legislation right now that was done by ballot initiative where once a law is written or it's going from one committee to another, or it's been changed, it's been amended, it got amended, it has to sit for 72 hours before they can make the next move on it, before they can vote on it, before they can take committee. That's because that's the people done that through the ballot initiative. So that's one rule that they have to follow. There's certain rules that are already in the Constitution, certain rules that have been set by initiative process that they have to follow, but everything else, they can make it up as they go. They can decide how they want to do it, when they want to do it.
Interesting. And how does it work? Like, for example, Prop 36, right? It was passed by ballot initiative, but the state legislature has refused to fund it, right? Or have they funded it yet?
They didn't want to fund it. They were looking for $400 million for it. They gave it out $200 million because it was like there was a lot of pressure about it. And I don't know if you realize, like, you drive a car?
Yeah.
Okay. The price of gas, we've been talking about the price of gas going up. It hasn't. The new tax coming in July.
Yeah.
We're supposed to see this, which...
Have they delayed it? What happened?
No, it's going from 59 to 61 and a half. So it's like 2.5 cents more from my understanding. So like people were hyping it. And that's why you got to be careful about. Gotcha. Even when people that are on your side and you think it's like, why are you giving this misinformation out?
Interesting. Yeah, because I was hearing everybody was saying 65 cents or whatever. I have an electric vehicle, so I don't really keep up with the price of gas. Right. But I was hearing like 65 cents. I was like, wow, that's crazy. I didn't hear about that. But now it makes more sense that it's going up to 61 cents. It went up 2.5 cents.
Yeah. And it actually, the price has gone down. So it's like, what is happening? And I don't know.
Well, I think price has gone down around the country from what I've seen. In Texas, it's like $2.50. In Florida, it's just about around $3, right? So I think California is still the most expensive out of every state because we import so much, and we're about to lose 2 refineries. But
we also have a special blend that's supposed, and I don't know for sure if it is. I'm hoping it does. Yeah, that it gives us cleaner air the way it burns, and that could be true. And if that's the case, and I'm sitting there thinking about this, before coming in today, it's like, is that okay? Because growing up here, the air was really bad.
Yeah, I heard in the 80s and 90s it was.
So and it's like it's really clean now. So is it worth it? And I know with the federal government has given California an exemption to go above and beyond what the federal standards are. Now, my understanding is that wasn't renewed with the Trump administration. So with that is like one of the things that if you ever buy like a regular car here, California, New York, and I think one other state have like these special catalytic converters. And a friend of mine, and I don't know this for sure. I haven't verified this if this is the case or not. It's just a stamp on there that they put on there to charge an extra tax. Is it actually cleaner than other states? If it is, it's like, okay, but I'm looking at like I have an Escalade truck, and to replace that catalytic converter would be $4,000 for the California standard.
Wow.
But I can get one for $500 in another state.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a huge increase
markup,
cost. Yeah. And is it a markup or is it actually like cleaner? And that, I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah.
If it's cleaner, it's like, is it worth it, to to take, you're talking about taking a whole car off the road if like those go down on older cars.
Yeah.
Where you could keep you can keep an older car on the road, because the biggest pollution of a car is the manufacturing of it. So you get a new car, you've just you used all that resources and used everything that it's, the fuel that it's take to burn to actually produce that. So keeping an older car on the road, I would think, would be a lot more environmentally sustaining, even though that the parts per millions of what's put out on the exhaust is going to be higher. So yeah, I haven't weighed those things out.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the bills that last year went through, SBX2 or 1. Nancy Skinner, who was a state senator from Berkeley, and she termed out, she wrote in that bill to where refineries can only make so much money. It limit the amount of money that the refineries can make. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with the prices going down, or if, as you said, it just gone down. She gets, after doing that, and then you mentioned the 2 refineries getting, deciding they're going to leave California.
Yeah.
She gets appointed to the Energy Commission. Like, holy moly, So I go up to they have the Rules Committee in the Senate where they do confirmation on the Senate side of people that were appointed. There's people that they have to actually go through this 5-panel, the Rules Committee, and decide yay or nay. It's three Republicans, or 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And it's like either they all vote for the person, or the 2 Republicans will vote against it. And so I go up there to testify against Nancy Skinner of why she shouldn't have this. So traditionally it's like 2 minutes is what they give you. So I prepared 2 minutes. Well, I sit through this hearing, and it is long and drawn out, and usually I'm pretty interested, but this one I was like trying not to fall asleep. Senator Grove from Shannon Grove from Bakersfield, which is Kern, is like the biggest amount of energy that we can produce in California. We could take care of all our state's need if they let Kern actually pump and get the oil out of there. They also do a lot of solar. I don't know if they do geothermal, what other things that they do, wind, but they're a big area of energy production for California. She had a notebook binder of all the things that Nancy Skinner has like done against keeping the price of fuel cheap in California, keeping energy cheap. She's actually done things that are counter to that. She had this big binder she was talking about. So I wanted to go up and give my 2 minutes about this SBX2 and talk about how she caused these refineries to leave. Couldn't do it. All I could do is say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I'm against her. And I was the only one there.
And why was that? Was it just a time thing, or?
It was just how the chair decided to that was what he decided. It was like, okay, we're not going to allow you to speak. I might have been able to there's sometimes they'll let you speak even though they say you won't. Sometimes you can put in like 1 or 2 phrases where you're supposed to say your organization and you can get a point across that way. But you're not supposed to do that, what they call Me Too testimony.
Is it their way of like kind of squashing dissent?
No, it's time.
It's just time.
Yeah. Because they allow, they're a full-time legislator. They allow so many bills, even though they've cut it down from 50 to 35 this year for the 2-year session. They still jam-packed a bunch of legislation in, and it's just like, we want to get through this. It's not, and you look at other states, man, they'll have testimony on a bill for 2 days. We'll let everybody, have 5 minutes to speak. And 2 minutes you think it's a long time, but it's really, especially for somebody as long-winded as me.
No, 2 minutes, if you're, especially like bills, like the one you mentioned, like the fluoride one and like anything relating to energy in a state that is so deprived of energy. We have rolling blackouts every summer. We have these like tiered pricing, all this stuff. It's really hard to get energy here. I imagine 2 minutes isn't nearly enough to be able to get your point across.
Even when you try to get it down to what you thought was 2 minutes, it's usually 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So then you got to cut a lot out. The Senate Health Committee allows 5 minutes for the two people. So it's like 2.5, depending on how you want to do it with each other. And the Assembly Public Safety, which is, you're in 44, right? Nick Schultz is your assembly member?
Yes.
You probably don't like his politics. I don't like his politics either,
Yeah.
but I will say that as somebody who chairs that committee, the Public Safety Committee, it is night and day to what it has been in the past. I mean, still, it's hard to go into the Public Safety Committee. It's very dark. There's a lot of dark subjects that they talk about, but the way he handles it is.
So he's competent, but he's just ideologically,
we don't agree with him. And I said that to him. I'm like, hey, politically, we just don't agree. But I appreciate, and I really do, I appreciate the way how he's handled the Public Safety Committee, allowing 5 minutes to talk. And this is the big reason why I go up there, is because there's all these bills that like nobody says a thing about. They don't even get, all of a sudden you'll hear about this is a law now. And it's like, well, how'd that happen? You know, and like I've seen some really bad bills like SB 132 from I think in 2019 that allows men who self-identify as women to go into female prisons. So I went back to watch the hearing on that. Nobody was there to testify against it.
That's crazy. And that's such a big issue too. So many women, especially women on the right, you would imagine that they would be coming out and speaking against something like that. Not
did. Enough. No, there was people that came out for it. I can tell you about that. But so anyways, right now, I don't know if you heard of a bill, AB 495.
What is that?
It will allow, and I'm not clear on it, and that's why I looked at it. It seemed benign, and I never testified against it. Because existing law, you can have somebody be, I don't want to mess this up. You can have somebody be to have the say with what your kids go to school and what kind of medical treatment and what kind of schooling they get. To the fact of there may be immigrant and their parents get picked up and the kids without somebody, so they can have an affidavit under penalty of perjury that this person can now make the decisions.
So they have a guardian, basically.
Yeah, that they give them, but.
And this guardian isn't like a parent or somebody related to them. It's
they
like,
can or
like
cannot be. And that's where
so it could be like a public official.
Yeah. So some people of mine that deal with more trans issues and parental rights, I don't focus on that so much because I know there's a group of people up there that are doing it already. I'll usually bring things to their attention if they haven't caught it. There's so much there, but they didn't catch this. And then they finally just caught this week. And they had testimony on it. If you can look on Instagram, it's all over, but the way it looks and the way people, and I've glanced at it and like, I don't really understand it. And one of the attorneys, Facts, Law, Truth, Justice, that attorney there was a bill that it took me like a week to understand, a week or two. And it had to be explained to me over and over again until I finally got it. That same person is saying like, no, what this will do is allow that person to be the full-time guardian and it will allow anybody to sign that letter, and then they can make decisions medically in what school they can put the person in. So if that child is taken away from you, that the ideal is it's for immigrants that maybe got caught up in.
But it could be broader than that.
Yeah, it could be. This is my understanding. It could be broader than that, to where like anybody can sign for it, and all of a sudden they have custody of your kid.
And is there any sort of opening in it where the kid could choose the guardian? Let's say it's the kid claims that it's an unstable household, and then they're like, oh, but I want this person to be my guardian, and that person wants this kid to transition. That's part of the reason why there's that issue.
It could be used that way, from my understanding. So, because a couple of years ago, we got into 3 bills, and one of them was Assembly Bill 665. Former Assembly member Wendy Carrillo, she was the author, but when the testimony happened, I don't think she even understood what the hell the bill was about. The idea was that if you got mental health care, it was covered through private insurance, but not through Medi-Cal. So she sold it on the ideal, and it did do this. It allowed people that were on Medi-Cal to have Medi-Cal pay for the mental health care. And that includes going into a residential facility. Now, the way the law was written before was that if there was some sort of harm happening to the kid, They were being abused, sexually abused. They were going to commit suicide. A counselor, an authorized adult or a professional person was the exact wording, can put that person in a residential facility. So if they're a victim of incest, they think they're going to kill themselves, they can put that person in without their parents' permission.
Wow. And
then they're supposed to notify the parents, try to get a hold of the parents. They wrote it to where the child, mature minor is what they said, at 12 years old,
Jesus.
And this professional person can say that this person can go into a residential facility. So that's already set up in the law. We tried to fight that really hard.
That's crazy. So they're essentially, parental rights, no matter how you look at it, are under attack, at least in the state, on the state level, like full on.
Wow. Yeah. You don't have kids, right?
No, I don't have kids, but you only hear it on the instance of like, a kid's going to school and the kid decides to transition in school and the teachers find out about it and the teacher doesn't have to tell the parents. You don't hear about it to the degree that you're describing now, where like essentially the kid's being given at 12 the autonomy to divorce themselves from their parents and choose a guardian who will enable them to go and pursue a transition.
That's where this is leading, yeah. And they already have the changing of the name, so you can't find the kid.
Wow.
So a couple of the senators that I spoke with when it was happening,
yeah,
they really felt that, that's there, but it's not going to be used for that. That's more for runaway kids. That was their justification for why they did it, even though it's possible.
And who were those senators, if you don't mind me asking?
Ashby in Sacramento, and Ben Allen, who's here in the South Bay and Santa Monica.
Are they supportive of trans issues?
Generally, yeah. Yeah, they also voted for AB 957, which would mandate that the court rules in the favor of the parent that is affirming to the child. But Newsom rejected that because he vetoed it because he said it's already happening, which it already is happening in child family court. The judges are being trained by activists to say this is the best thing. The child knows himself. You're going to harm the child if you don't affirm with what they think they are. So it's best just to do that because you're just going to cause all sorts of discomfort and mental health problems and possibility that they'll kill themselves. So this is what the judges have been taught, and the judges are ruling like they
are they being taught this in what level of training, like in college or whenever they get their judge position?
How these trans activists are actually reaching out to them, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's an activist now who used to work in a gender clinic. Her name's Jamie Reed, and she talked about doing it. So like I've been pushing her, like tell me about it, and she gave me like a little a blip on it on X. She like answered my request. She's like, well, what do you want to know? I'm like, how do you go about doing it? How does it happen?
Yeah.
And she says, she said it was just basic information. Now, how they got access to them, I'm not sure. I don't know how that happened.
Because that would be really interesting to find out if this is something like, let's say it's state mandated training, right? It's state mandated inclusivity training or something like that. Or if it's elective, if people are going out and choosing to, learn about these topics.
Or I think they might just be reaching out to the judges and the council.
And just going one-to-one, like personally lobbying them and emotionally coercing them into their side of the issue.
Right, yeah. And if you get to somebody first, it's like calling the police on somebody. Like who called first? And that's who the police are going to believe.
Yeah.
If you're having, like there's domestic dispute, whoever called first is going to be the one that the police are going to side with. As crazy as that is, that's just the reality of it. There is California Department of Civil Rights, I believe is what it's called. There's a guy by the name of Asaf Orr, and he was one of the original people. He worked for the Lesbian Center for Civil Rights, I believe it was called. Or anyways, they wrote this book, him with the ACLU, that organization. There was 5 others. I haven't thought about it in a while. It's called Schools in Transition. And you can read about the whole plan that they have for transitioning kids in schools. And that was part of it. So he was one of the attorneys that actually trained judges. He talks a little bit about it. Really dry podcast if you can find them talking about it. They're out there. There's a few of them. I listen to them.
So they basically have a handbook on how they plan on doing this.
Oh yeah, you can get it. Schools in Transition.
Interesting.
Yeah, you can get it from the ACLU. You can put that in a search engine.
So it's not like it's hidden at all. They're just like it's wide out in the open.
Oh yeah, it's out there. So yeah, it's
interesting. I'm wondering, is there any common sense up there? Because it just sounds like they're all so ideologically driven, and there's such consensus amongst all the Democrats.
Right.
Why would they have any reason to?
Even if they don't agree with it, because we have talked to Democratic legislators that don't agree with it. They're like, if I do it, I'm like ostracized. If I speak out against it, I'm out.
Yeah.
And they know that. There's certain things they can talk about and certain things they can't. So
they're out in terms of support for their legislation, or they're out in terms of like next election cycle, they don't get the funding.
They didn't say specifically, but I mean, you read between the lines.
Gotcha.
You're like persona non grata at that point in time.
Gotcha.
You would probably get ran out. Your legislation will get, because even with Republicans, are like, they watch what they say to the Democrats because they have their little bills that don't really mean much, but they still want to have something to take back to the constituents to say like, hey, I've done this, or somebody they're working with that, supported their campaign, or some pet project. They try not to upset the Democrats there.
Wow. It's actually sad to hear, because you would think that, especially nowadays with the level of transparency you can get from social media, you would think that Republicans would be leveraging social media to do, kind of what you're doing right now, bring all this stuff to the forefront, which a lot of people don't know about, right? Like I would imagine
nobody's up there. That's why I'm up there.
Yeah.
You've watched my testimony. It's not that great. It's not that, it's not that like, wow, like you want to replay it.
I mean, you're doing a testimony in a professional environment. A lot of the times you have to just be very measured. It's not like a conversation.
But there are people that give testimony that's like worth like reposting and like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't mastered that yet, and that's fine. But the thing is, it's like, I was hoping to be able to get that good at doing it, not doing it, whatever. But yeah, there's nobody up there, and that's why I'm up there. There's very few people. There's California Family Councils, and they're a Christian-based organization, and then some of their associates, they handle a lot of the abortion issues. They also work in with family things. The trans issues, that's covered by our duty. Used to be Women Are Real. They formed themselves something called CAUSE, California's for sex-based evidence, law and policy. They've created their own form. They're up there with the California Family Council. I'll support testimony that they do. I read some testimony for them that they wrote up that they didn't have anybody there because they had somebody else in another committee. So you're having like 3 or 4 committees going on at one time. Yeah. And like, I'll be watching on my phone, like another committee, and like, okay, I'm trying to like, I want to go testify over there and over here. And it's like, sometimes it works out if it's in the same building, but there's 2 different buildings that they have them in. So I'll be running around going to different testimony committees. And sometimes you show up and there's people there that are already testifying against it. One bill, Senator Blank Spear, SB 403. We have and about maids in Canada, medical assistant in dying.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
So we have one here in California called End of Life Option. They started in, I think, in 2017, 2018. Has a sunset on it, where now they have to take all these records of what's happening to make sure that it's done in a way that's nobody's being coerced into doing it. This senator, it expires in 2031. This senator wants to remove the sunset. So like, it's not there anymore.
So it becomes permanent, basically.
Yeah, it becomes permanent. And then it's like, what happens at that point in time, and what happened in Canada, people
they start expanding.
Yeah, they get a little lax. Yeah, who can get it? You don't have to do this. So I went up to testify against that, and there was people already there testifying it, which was great.
So I mean, I'm already pretty black-pilled. I have like a doomsday mentality already with stuff, but I'm getting the impression that, a lot of the times we hear that we're like losing a grip on this state, right? It's do you see from your experience going up there and constantly testifying against these bad ideas, like provably bad ideas? I mean, you look at just the trans issue, Sweden, England, a lot of these countries that led the childhood transition, the transition hospitals, all that stuff, they've completely abandoned those programs because they saw that they were actually doing more harm than good. But here we are still expanding. Not only that, we're now removing the right that parents have to protect their children in order to further expand this lunacy. I'm wondering, like,
here in California, they're doing that, but not in other states. 27 other states, they're not. They're not allowing children to do that type of treatment, as they call it. I consider it mutilation.
I think it's just cosmetic. It's not really treatment. It's just, but I mean, you can, I guess you can kind of see, because we're our state, not us, but our state leadership is just pushing so far in that direction. Do you see what is after it? Like, because you kind of have to wonder, once they get that agenda established, what comes after it? Are they going to start trying to normalize pedophilia or legalize it? Because wasn't there like Scott Wiener, like he tried to pass something like that, or to soften the punishment for pedophiles?
Not necessarily pedophiles, but the age range of what you would call statutory rape. So depending on the age range between the victim, the minor to the adult, he changed it to where it's like a 10-year spread. Which means if you're 24 and you sleep with a 15-year-old, that's, so in that sense. So, I mean,
it just, if you're opening up like statewide, where it just opens up room for criminality and for people to be able to just abuse children without any sort of recourse for the child,
Yeah, well, that's what happens with a lot of these kids. They get into this trans situation and then they leave their parents. And if they end up in a residential facility or they're ran away, they usually end up being trafficked, doing sex work themselves or somebody trafficking them. Either way, it's the same thing. They're suffering that abuse of being sold as a piece of meat for sex, and it's disgusting. So there's little things that they do. There's a bill that was passed a few years back where now, and you probably know this, where the police used to be able to go up on a prostitute and say, hey, shake them down for the fact that they were loitering with the intention of soliciting sex for money. They changed that law. And the reason why they changed it is because trans kids of color up in the Bay Area were being harassed by police. That was the justification they gave.
Gotcha.
And they all voted for it. So now we see what happened down in Los Angeles in Figueroa.
Yeah,
I think that's a Figueroa street.
There are a bunch of different streets. I mean, you kind of lose track of it.
And these girls are dressed in G-strings and very skimpy outfits standing out there. Police can't do anything about it. And are those minors out there? Could be. I don't know for sure. I'm sure, there's kids being trafficked like that. So, there's these little things that are being done that are taking us in that direction. We do have Supreme Court cases happening. We had the Scammetti case, which the ACLU tried to say, you can't stop a person from getting this type of medical procedures that, I think it was Tennessee. Scammetti was the attorney general for that. And the ACLU, went through the courts, and eventually they have a certiorari request to have the Supreme Court hear it. They granted it on that. And I think the ACLU knew that they weren't going to win, but they had their first trans lawyer actually argue in front of the Supreme Court. So that was a big deal to them. But the Supreme Court upheld that a state can say, that type of treatment is not appropriate for minors. We don't, it's not, it's medical treatment's invasive. And it's like, if you're going to do something, you want to have a good reason for doing it. You just don't want to cut yourself up and start having like doctors do things on you, because there's repercussions to it. Yeah. You can deal with infections. I mean, your body's never the same when it gets cut like that.
Yeah.
If you have any, so there's that. So the federal government has come down on California, and we've been saying to the legislator, like, this is going to happen. You're going to lose funding because of Title IX, because of allowing boys to play in girls' sports. And that's, a lot of people don't understand that don't know the legislation. That's law. That was passed in 2013, I believe it was. The Assembly Bill was 1266. And the actual code is Education Code 221.5F, which says that a person cannot be discriminated to play or participate in sex-segregated activities based on their gender. So you can say you're this gender, and then you can participate in that sex-segregated activity. And that includes not only just the sports, that includes the bathrooms, includes the changing rooms, includes if you go on an overnight field trip where you sleep. Are you sleeping with the girls' dorm or the boys' dorm? If you're a boy claims he's a girl, well, then you're allowed to sleep in the girls' dorm. And a lot of parents don't know that. So, regards,
that's just state law.
Yeah. So the federal government, that's an education code. Yeah. And there's also like not harassing them. I believe it's Education Code 220.
But the federal, but Title IX is the complete opposite of that.
Title IX says that you cannot discriminate based on sex.
Gotcha.
Now, people read that differently, and I'm not clear on it.
So I guess the application has been different depending on who's in government.
Right. Yeah. Now you have with the Trump administration, they're going out after it, saying like we're gonna withhold funding if you don't like comply with what Title IX is, and amongst other things. So we were looking at $14 billion. I think they only like less than $1 billion they withheld. But Tony Thurmond, who's the Secretary of Education, the Superintendent of Education, he's like, oh, this is so horrible that this is happening. The LA Unified School District, their Superintendent Cavazzo is like, this is just such an injustice. Meanwhile, they have billions of dollars in reserves, the LA Unified School District. So with that happening, the state sued the federal government, and they have this lawsuit. It's 33 pages, basically saying you can't do this because there's 2 court cases that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals already ruled upon, saying that that law is justified. And so the Supreme Court, one of those cases and another case in West Virginia, has taken it up. So it's going to be decided soon. Within probably the next 6 months. It'll probably be heard in 3 months, and 3 months after that, they'll have the decision on it. I
didn't know we were that far off the cliff. And I don't think most people know.
No, they don't. Nobody knows what's going on. There's so many little things that are happening up there. And if people just get involved, I mean, fortunate, the freedom, how I got involved was during COVID. I mean, I can go back to when I was 20, but that will probably bore the hell out of you.
No, just tell me then from when you got involved in COVID.
Yeah, well, the COVID was, the city of LA, I work for the city of LA. They decided the employees were going to get the COVID vaccine in order to work. And I was like, I was freaked out. I'm like, I'm older. I'm not going to be able to get a job as easy as I do now, with the pay that I get. It's like, I'm not doing it. I just knew I'm not taking this vaccine. So I was looking for anything, and I found these women that are up there that during SB 277 and SB 276, which actually got rid of the exemptions for personal belief, originally was the first bill for if you were to go to school, because you have to be vaccinated to go into schools in California. But there was an exemption. I knew about that from the 90s. I learned about that. I had this whole education that I got in my 20s regarding health freedom and a lot of different things. That was one of them. So I wasn't scared about it. And then I heard about it. So I sent a letter, called and visited my representative, even though it didn't really affect me so much, but I went and did what I was asked to do, but I didn't realize the fight that was going on. I didn't know about the fight that was happening up in Sacramento, where they occupied the building. There was women were making such a fuss. They were banging on the walls when they were in there. It was a big deal.
Because of the exemptions?
Yeah, because they got rid of them. And they said, you know what? We're just getting rid of the personal belief exemptions. We're going to keep the medical exemptions. A couple of years later, they go and get rid of the medical exemptions. because people were just getting medical exemptions the doctor would give them to them. You could still get a medical exemption, but a doctor's only allowed to give 5 a year before they get flagged. And then they get looked at by the way it's written in the law is that they are dangerous. They're dangerous to the people that they're serving because they've done that. So you can't get, you have a medical exemption, but it's functionally, you're not getting it because the doctor's not going to give it to you because they don't want to get red flagged. They don't want to get, they don't want to
put their job at risk.
Yeah. So these women made such a fuss about it. And they said, we're not leaving. What ended up happening, you had about 58,000 families that ended up leaving California because of it, because a lot of parents still homeschool. They found different ways of getting around it, but a lot of families had to leave. But these women said, we're not leaving. And the Freedom Angels didn't leave. And what they have been doing ever since is teaching people how to go up to Sacramento and lobby. Yeah. So I went up there and they gave me that thumbnail of how to how to go up and lobby. Very, very basic. Like, it's here, you can talk to them. And from there, that's where I kind of learned about, all this stuff happens in hearings. My lobbying that I learned from them, it didn't really work out for me. I found out because I spent a good 2 years going up there and lobbying and trying to talk to legislators in their offices. Some would listen, some wouldn't, but it never changed anything. But
so what would they do? They would just like hear you out, but not like, it wouldn't really be.
Yeah, they'd hear you. They would pass it on, but the legislator is going to vote how they want to vote. They'll take it into consideration. But it doesn't mean that it's going to change their vote.
But however the party tells them to vote.
Unless there was a huge backlash. And we were able to stop a bill that Scott Wiener had to allow 12-year-olds to get vaccinated without their parents' knowledge or permission.
What is his thing with minors, dude? He's such a weirdo. I'm sorry. I don't mean to derail this,
but I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying because it sounds like he had a good relationship with his parents when he talks about his family.
Yeah.
I don't know if he thinks or he knows people that had a hard time when they were kids with being gay.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people with the whole trans thing, they equate it to being gay, and it's not. It's a totally different thing. It's like that whole trans agenda it starts with an O, but it was a Supreme Court ruling,
Obergefell?
Obergefell, yeah. That allows, a Supreme Court rule that you can get married same sex.
Yeah.
And since then, they've said, okay, now you're going to help us out in the trans arena. Yeah. You're going to support us. Some people went along with it. Most people did in that community, and other people didn't. So ever since then, there's been that connection of I don't want to, I don't want to offend, or I don't want to do the wrong thing that we did with gay people. I don't want to say you don't have the same right, and it's completely a ball game. Yeah.
But you see it, there's a fracture in the gay community. I've seen so many people be like, oh, we got to drop the TQ. I've seen so many people online.
Well, people that are against it. Yeah, well, and there are some people that are totally with
gay people.
The TQ.
People part of the LGB who want to drop the TQ. But these are most older gays, right? That you see on social media talking about
a lot of lesbians, because a lot of lesbians have been affected. Older lesbians have been affected really negatively. Yeah, I mean, can you imagine? I'm straight. I'm assuming you are. If you're not, or whatever. But if you went to a dating site to meet girls.
Yeah. All of a sudden
there's a dude dressed as a girl, and you're like, you ain't I ain't interested in that. Yeah. But imagine being a woman. Yeah. And a lot of women. I'm going on a limb here. I think some people are naturally same-sex attracted, and there's other people that had traumatic experiences. Yeah. A lot of gay guys had issues with their father. Yeah. A lot of lesbian women were sexually assaulted. I think or repulsed by men for some reason.
Yeah, I think statistically it falls between 45 and 55% of people who are same-sex attracted had some sort of abuse before the age of 12.
So let's just say that's the case with a woman, and she decides, I have no interest in men sexually. Fine. She's in her community. She wants to go and date. And all of a sudden there's a dude on there claiming he's a woman. And it's what the hell? You're hitting me up. I don't want anything to do with a guy. Yeah, yeah. And that burns me up. Because I know as a man, it's the same thing. It's I don't want to date a man. Well, they don't want to date a man. And it's why are they they're having to be subjected to this. Now they're spas that they go to. Oh yeah. They want to get naked. It's be comfortable. Because if we're in here right now, two guys, cutting it up, two guys, bring a girl in here. Oh, it changes the whole
It
atmosphere.
changes the whole
Bring a
dynamic.
girl who's attractive, it changes the whole dynamic at a
Exactly.
whole different level.
Well,
So now it's the same thing with women. You have
Exactly.
women, they're cutting it up, they're, being comfortable with it. All of a sudden, the dude's in there. It changes the whole atmosphere.
A dude who's cosplaying as a woman.
in an area where they're naked.
Oh,
That is like
that
horrible.
must be so strange.
Oh yeah, you're trying to change.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to use the restroom. You're trying to have some privacy, things that you're not going to do in public, but you'll do it in front of other women.
Yeah.
They understand it. It's like we're in private.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, there's a dude in there.
Yeah.
What I mean, and there are some girls that are okay with it, but I don't know if you heard of. There's a assembly member, or they call it a house in New Hampshire, Johanna Wheelers, and he. Young guy, talks like Obama, has braids, and he made a really good speech about it. It's like all women can't consent for other women. Like just because you consent doesn't mean this other woman's consenting.
Yeah,
and a really powerful speech.
It's a good point.
The guy made.
It's a good point. And as far as like the trans thing for straight guys, the way that it's getting pushed on us is like you have to be attracted to a trans woman the same way you are to a biological woman, which is just bullshit. I mean,
Right.
I think it's there's a popular meme that goes around the internet that says like trans women are men. Like are you gay if you're dating a trans woman? And I mean, yeah, you kind of have to be okay with the idea that you're dating a man that's in drag, basically, just really good drag.
Some people might be into it, if they are, that's their thing. But
Yeah, whatever you're into is whatever you're into.
Accept it is.
Yeah.
So what was I getting at with the Freedom Angels and why
You were talking about the Freedom Angels, yes.
And
We
why
kind of
went
went
up
off. I derailed a bit.
Yeah, I did.
And we
I
talked
did.
about Scott Wiener and like all his things.
So yeah, anyways, how I got going up there and what's going on in California. I had an issue that was important to me because I was going to lose my livelihood.
Yeah.
I thought, and there's an actual California immunization registry that's electronic. And I thought that was what's going to be used to like say you're not vaccinated. So you're like, I saw it as going as bad as like you're being, you're no longer welcomed in society because that's originally what they did to actually being tracked down and it being shoved, being forced to me. It didn't go that far. These were the fears that I had. So I went up there based on that. And that's what got me involved. And that's the thing I think, like a lot of people that are up there, they've had situations where the law has affected their life in a way that they have decided they have to get involved. Now, here's the thing. Most people in California, thank goodness, they're not being affected in that negative way. So they don't have to get involved. And it's not until it affects you that way that you get involved. So that's why people don't know what's going on. They don't pay attention. They wait until, it's usually New Year's when they come on the radio and say, oh, this is a new law here. It's like, how did that happen? So yeah, that's these little things that they do a little bit at a time. Like, so I made a list of all these bills. There's one bill that I went and I testified against. And all it is, it's an immigration bill. It was written in 1977 where it has to be written or it has to be read to a defendant that if they, and if they're an immigrant defendant, that if they plead guilty, that it could affect their immigration status. And so what this legislator did, she said, you know what, it's not being read. It's not being read verbatim. So people don't truly understand. So we want to change the law. We want to clarify it that it has to be read verbatim because it's not happening. Not a problem. I get it. You're being accused of something. You're going to lose your immigration status, or you're going to be deported. A person needs to know that.
It's like Miranda rights. It makes sense that it would be read verbatim.
This is a law that's almost 50 years old. They just wanted to clarify it. But what she did right in there was, and this is like one of the things that they're doing. These little things they crossed out his or hers and put it to theirs. So I got up and objected that.
So they try to make it gender neutral?
Yeah.
They try to slip in their little language.
Yeah, so I got up and said, this is a great bill, but I have to oppose it unless amended because replacing his or her with their is the continuation of the states erasing women's sex-based rights. And they were like trying to cut me off, which they normally don't.
That's the way you push back though, because you flip their ideology back on them because they'll never want to be on the side of like, oh, we're taking the rights away from women. You know?
Well, so a lot of people don't realize. So whoever's going to listen to this, they probably don't realize that. And that's why I'm bringing it up. It's like, those are little things that are happening.
Yeah.
You know, let me see what else we got here. So another thing that's happening is we have 6.5 million Californians that voted for President Trump. One of the reasons was because to enforce immigration laws. There's a whole slew of legislation, I think 24 different bills to hinder that enforcement. One of them was like, you can't go into school unless you have a warrant. And
there's the mask thing too.
That we'll talk about that. But just this one was like, you can't go in without a warrant, and you have to have an ID, and you also have to have permission from the principal. And I'm like, you know, and I got up and I testified. I said, look, this is and I'll tell you why I said it. This is a redundant bill, and it has to do with the chair of this committee. And like, you're putting these employees, okay, it's redundant because already if you're going to search something, a school, even though it's publicly owned, is private property. And that school can say, no, you can't come in here. You know, you have a warrant? No, you can't do it. But to have that school administrator say, I have to get permission from a higher up, that's interfering.
That's obstruction.
Yeah, that's obstruction. So I mentioned that in the committee. The author actually pulled it out of there, which, you know, I said in the appropriations committee, I'm like, I'm opposed to this, but because, you know, he did address this issue of that would put employees in danger of, you know, being criminally or civically, you know, end up being in jail or end up getting injured.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot more palatable for the state to take it because they're not going to have to deal with lawsuits because of it. So this is Elmer Succi, assembly member from the South Bay, Torrance, same area as Ben Allen. He's the head of the Assembly Education Committee. There was a bill. There is something called the Healthy Youth Act. And what that does, it teaches kids sex education, teaches them HIV education, and in there it also teaches, there's one aspect of the law that teaches them gender identity, gender expression, and the harmful effects of gender stereotypes. So the head of
kids need to learn math. They don't need to learn this.
Oh, exactly. So the head of and this is, well, the reason I bring this up is this is one of the reasons, and I know like the president of our duty says that's how her daughter got caught up into this. They came to the school and they had a contractor come, and they don't just tell you about what gender is, gender expression, gender identity, and what could be the harms of doing it. They sell it as like, oh, which one are you? Where do you fall in this scale?
Gotcha.
They pull out the gender unicorn, or the gender
grooming
Birdman.
A little bit.
Oh, it's total grooming.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be that way. And I say that if there's any like school board members that have control of the school board, they can change that to where it's just, all right, this is what it is. It's not what a lot of schools are doing. They're imposing that viewpoint and then punishing the child if they don't go along with it, as opposed to just teaching them.
Wow. How are they punishing the child?
Well, they're calling them bigots.
Wow.
Yeah, they're saying
socially shaming them in class.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's happening. So you go into more conservative areas of California, that's not happening. In places like California, in Los Angeles, in areas that are more concentrated, they're more blue, and you're having that happen. In those places.
This has been legislated into.
Yeah, this is California. So in that committee, the head of the Republican Assembly had a bill to just allow a parent the curriculum for it and to have, a copy of it for a certain amount. And that whole committee said, well, this is already in law. This is redundant, And this is like the first hearing.
Yeah.
So it's like every time something happens in that committee, such as this law that this guy tries to impose with like saying you need a search warrant to go search a private property. It's like, dude, that's already law.
Yeah.
That's the crazy thing about all this, them trying to legislate federal legislation, like with the mask.
Yeah.
Like you can't, they don't have the authority to legislate what a federal agency does, a federal police agency does. It's not their purview. And who's going to enforce it? A state law enforcement officer?
At what point does it, they know it's purely performative, but do they still waste everybody's time and resources to just push it just so they can get that soundbite? Or
it's their house, yes. And so my take on this and why I support what's happening with picking up the people that are here that don't have immigration status to be here. those people will end up voting Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
And you will not have California just being like California. The whole United States will do that.
Yeah.
So if you get rid of those people, you're not going to have those census numbers to have those congressional seats.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also not going to have those people that have been provided benefits from the Democratic administration voting for Democrats.
Yeah,
and the thing about the way the law is written now,
Mm-hmm.
my understanding, and I'm delving into the election code.
Mm-hmm.
Because California has 26 codes. One of them is the election codes that I think they started in 92 or 94. They created its own code, has its own section
Mm-hmm.
that you register to vote with a signature, and under penalty of perjury, you are saying that you are eligible to vote because you're a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody checks it.
Nobody checks it.
Nope.
Yeah.
Secretary of State is not responsible. The county board of registers in the 58 counties in California, who I've talked to, I talked to the state Secretary of State. They said it's up to them to follow it. The county board of registers said that the California law says that you sign under the penalty of perjury,
Mm-hmm.
and all they do is compare the signatures.
Mm.
So you can register under a name,
Mm-hmm.
put last four of a social security number, a driver's license, an ID number if you have it,
Mm-hmm.
and an address, date of birth. Do they check? No, they don't check it.
Yeah, when I went to vote out here, they like just pulled up. They asked me for my name. They pulled it up on a spreadsheet, and I was like, "Do I have to show you an ID?" They were like, "Nope, just sign right here." And I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, and all they do is what they do to verify is to check the signatures.
Yeah.
So with all these people that came across the border, they came on the CP Customs Border Patrol 1 app.
Yeah, CBP 1. Yeah.
Those people got social security numbers.
Really? They
Yeah.
were. Yeah, because they're all the motor
so
voter
then they got, then
databases. Yeah.
They got
driver's licenses. Then they were given.
So what that means is if they want in California, I don't know how it is in other states, they can register to vote, put their social security last four numbers, address, signature, state ID, California ID number,
Yeah.
and boom, they're getting a mallet. They're getting 33 of the counties here send mandatory vote by mail ballots. So they got a ballot. All you got to do is know what that signature looks like, sign it, and there you got it.
You know, it's interesting because there's so many issues with what you just described. I was doing a voter registration drive in Van Nuys like about a week ago. And, you know, we were talking, a lot of the people that I talked to, I was talking about this voter ID initiative that Carl DeMaio has. I was explaining to them that it's like a pre-signing petition at this phase. But, you know, one person told me that they've been living at this house that they're at for like the last 2-3 years. In this last election, they got 5 mail-in ballots from the previous residents that were sent there. And that he could, based off of, I guess, the other mail that he was receiving from them, he could find their signatures and vote on their behalf if he wanted to. And nobody would be able to do anything or verify it. Outside of, like you said, they just need the signature to kind of match up. So that's one big issue. It's also a huge issue that we have this welfare state that almost incentivizes people to come out here and get all these benefits. And then they're essentially being paid to keep voting Democrat, to keep the Democrats in power.
And that's why I support this getting rid of people that don't have legal status to be here.
Yeah.
Because it's going to change the face of our country to be like California, Colorado, Washington, Illinois, Maine. All these states are crazy like we are. And it's like, we're not going to have the same United States that we have. So I don't have any, I get that people come here for a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of people are productive and they add to the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing about it is why it's gone on for so long is because it's cheap labor.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess the economy benefits from that, but I mean, we cannot have the rest of the United States turn into California. We have to
can't afford
change California. And God, I don't know what it's going to take. I listened to 2 interviews that you did. I listened to the Benny Burnell interview you did with David Hernandez.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, David Hernandez is, man, the history that is, if people are listening to this, haven't listened to that, I don't know what the title is. You want to check it out if you're curious about politics in Los Angeles, that guy has a lot of history.
Yeah.
And he shared a lot of information, which I thought was really valuable.
Yeah, he definitely is a great resource to have in our party. And
He's done so much too.
he has. His understanding of the neighborhood council, which is something which, ironically enough, it touches on the voter ID thing. It's harder. It's harder to register to vote on a neighborhood council election than it is to vote on a general election in California.
I heard. And, that actually inspired me. Like, am I, so I go up, like I said, I go up there to testify, to have somebody showed up and said no to it. So we looked back history that there was somebody there that said, no, we're not doing this. I know it's not changing anything. The best I have ever done up there is get a discussion going on the dais where they'll talk about things. I've had that happen a couple times, which feels really good. But a lot of times, like, my testimony is just completely ignored, like dismissed and ignored. And it's like, that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about, I know in my neighborhood council district, that's all leftists that are up there. I think there's one person that's not a leftist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, maybe I should,
Yeah. I mean, it's been one of the things that from a lot of the conversations I've had with other Republicans in different groups, it's one of the strategies that a lot of us have been discussing is we have to infiltrate these neighborhood councils and go from the bottom up, because that's what the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, have been basically doing for the last decade and a half. My neighborhood council is all DSA.
Yeah,
they're all extreme far leftists. It's all vote. It's basically how the state assembly is. All vote by consensus, and they do have some level of power and influence in the sense that they can give away, a set amount of grants and money every year to different causes and have different, hearings on different things and focus on different things. If their priority is public safety, then they'll end up, prioritizing organizations or those causes. If their priority is, transing children, then they're gonna focus on that, which is usually what they're focusing on, right? So yeah, I mean, I think that we should focus on involvement on every level. Doing what you're doing is I think, essential too, because even if, and I know you're like kind of contextualizing as saying like, I feel like I don't I'm just one voice in there, but I do think that in the long term, it's important that voices like yours are up there, even if it's just you saying something, because it's on the record that there's opposition to it. And, you'd be surprised how some of the strongest turns in the Overton window have happened from just one voice just being consistently there.
It has to start somewhere. And I agree with you. People encourage people to get involved on some level, whether it be within the city, the county, the state. Even if you're into federal legislation, track it and be somebody who talks about it, pay attention to it, reach out, develop a relationship with your legislator or with other legislators. It's not so easy to do in California because we're so far away, but there may be somebody who's listening in Virginia that's close to Washington, D.C. They can go and lobby. There may be somebody who's going to listen to this that's close to Sacramento. It's like, I don't have to run for office to go and weigh in.
Yeah.
These people that are up there that are serving those seats, they had to work hard to get those seats. I mean, as much as I don't like the way I'm treated by some of them, I don't like their politics. I have a lot of respect for the fact that they got those seats. Not easy to do. Not easy at all to win a race and how much you have to give of yourself to do it.
Yeah.
There's a Republican young woman up there who was talking about, and she was in a Republican district, and how much work it took her to get that seat. And she has absolutely no power except a voice to say something. I can go up there right now and speak for 2 minutes on a lot of different subjects. And as long as it's germane to the bill, they have to listen to it.
Yeah.
It's like, all I have to do is show, it costs me money to go up there.
Yeah.
I take time off work. I lose money that way, but I don't have to do what they had to do to get up there.
Yeah.
And you can speak out. Another way you can do it with state legislation, which that's my next thing next year, is to write letters. I'd be doing it this year, but I've been challenged in the sense that it looks better if it's on letterhead. They need a signature now, digital signature, which I haven't figured out how to do that. I kind of gave up on it. And then I need to get like a website with a legitimate email address as opposed to at Gmail or at Yahoo. It just looks horrible. So I actually, before I would put in there's a position portal that you can put things in, but I noticed like it was never mentioned in the analysis. And this year they finally got back to me. Like at the beginning of the year, I was writing in letters to the position portal, and they're like, "Well, it's not going to be accepted because there's no signature."
So they require these three different things. Interesting.
So every committee's different, but I just like gave up on that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to at least go up there. And talk. Having that being opposed on the record, it makes a difference. Because I went up. There's a bill. My Senator Henry Stern has this bill, SB 820, and what it does is if somebody is found incompetent to receive trial for a misdemeanor, then a psychiatrist can go and then they could do forced drugging of them. They can do forced medical treatment. Wow. There's already laws like that, but not for misdemeanors that have been found. And I know that these drugs cause a lot of harm to people. There's not, all the drugs on the market affect one or another. All of them on the market affect your body, system of your body. Be it your digestive, your vision, your skin, your mental, your respiratory, your muscular, your skeletal. These affected. They're very negative. And people that I ended up going up there and talked to about, they testified, like one person was saying it was the worst day of my life, you know, of having to be
when they took that drug.
Yeah, when they were forced to do it. A lot of people that were forced have been forced to do it.
And what's the process around a doctor deciding that? What's the deciding
there's a process.
factor?
There's a whole process that you have to go to the court.
So it's not arbitrary where the doctor could just.
But it is in the sense that, you know, if you're a doctor and you fill out the paperwork and you present it to a judge, who's going to say no? Yeah, they're not going to say no to that. So, I went up and forgot exactly where I was going with it. Why I was going to.
You were talking about the how people get drugged, and your senator.
Right. But there's a reason. So, anyways, I wish I knew where I was going with that, but I testified against it. And
how did that one work out?
Well, that's what it was. It was a letter, and I said, because I've known about this issue for over 30 years, and people that have survived it, they call themselves psychiatric survivors. So I went up there and said, I'm David Bolog. I'm representing psychiatric survivors of California because I know how people feel about this issue. He, at that point in time, looked at his papers to see, like, am I on the opposition list? Did I submit a letter? And I didn't. So that's why it's important, too, to do that, because he checked on that. So. Gotcha. Well, let's talk about these masks. Scott Wiener has these masks for federal agents.
Oh, the masks.
Yeah. So check this out. So you know about this. He wants to have it. So you have to wear it. You can't wear a mask. Any law enforcement, including federal agencies, including federal law enforcement, unless it's an N95, unless it's to a face covering that's clear, or if it's like for SWAT team things that protect their faces.
That's the law they wanted to pass.
This is the law as written. Hasn't been heard yet. It's called a gut and amend, where they take a bill that's already being processed through, they pull it all out and they put something new in there. If it's already been voted on, like this bill has already been voted on the Senate, it has to go back to the Senate if it gets approved through the Assembly. So he writes that, and it's like, well, first of all, you can't enforce this law
on federal agents.
Yeah, you can't do it.
And it's clear intimidation too, so that because they're getting doxxed, that's why they're covering their faces.
Yeah, that's exactly why. So here's the thing about three bills actually that they've already voted on in this committee. One was Assembly Bill 434 is what I believe it was, or was it 343? Anyways, what that bill does is there's public record request. And it exempts people that are public officials, that are elected or public officials, such as a judge, a elected official, assembly member, a senator, a governor, a prosecutor. And because they feel that protecting that person and their family outweighs the need for having personal information about them, they are exempt from a public record request. Now, that's already in law. They added retired judge and they added minor counsels to that of the list of the 15 people that are on there already, the different class of people. So they affirmed that law. that people should be protected.
Yeah.
And it also includes public safety officials, which are basically law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply to federal agents because
Do
they don't
they
have
add
any.
exclusions for ICE or?
No. So they passed this already before they came up with the ideal of that.
So they're going to pass a law that's totally contradictory to.
So they voted in the assembly. It still has to go through the Senate. And there's also 2 other laws. One that will prevent an employer from stopping you from wearing a facial covering at work for health reasons if you want to.
Yeah.
So you as an employee can wear a facial covering no matter what your employer says if you're saying it for health reasons. So you may be a waiter. And I went up and testified against this. I'm like, this is not necessary because who's stopping somebody from doing it?
Yeah.
Obviously, a friend of mine came up with the point of like, well, maybe it is happening because it's the Orange County Orange County Workers Union that were behind it. And I'm like, well, was there a case, because I can't question the assembly member or the witnesses, but I can bring it up and say, will somebody please ask them, did this happen? Was there a case? Nobody bothered to ask. There was one, when I got to that case, it was in the Senate Labor Committee. And there's this guy Strickland who was from the Huntington Beach City Council.
Tony Strickland?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was completely uncomfortable with the law at first. And then he got really completely uncomfortable with my testimony. You could see it in his body language when it's happening.
Yeah.
And they looked at him after I got done testifying and saying has anybody been affected by this? He's does this little thing, he's completely uncomfortable. And he's didn't say anything. And he ends up voting for it,
Wow.
Which is on one hand, it's if you want to wear a mask at work, you should be able to. But imagine if you're a waiter.
Yeah.
And it's people wore them because they're sick, not to get other people sick. It's what the hell are you doing at work if you're sick, and serving food? Or say you're at a high-end store. This is an argument I made is you're trying to sell some high-end luxury goods. And it's all of a sudden you have a mask on. It's going to make people uncomfortable. You're the boss. You don't want it.
Yeah.
Friends of mine said, you know what? No, because that person's going to want to make commissions. They're not going to do anything that's going to interfere with it. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. So anyways, they passed that through the public. This is going to go to the Assembly Public Safety Committee. Every member of the Public Safety Committee voted on it on the Assembly floor, except for Lackey. He's from Palmdale. He's Assembly member from Lackey. He's the only one that didn't vote on it. So that whole committee voted on it. The other bill that I told you about, the public records request exemption for public officials, that whole committee voted on it. And they're going to go into that committee, and if I'm the one who's testifying and bring that up, it's you had these 2 bills that you already both voted on that contradicts what this bill is all about, and now you're going to vote on this. So that's they're already showing themselves contradiction on that. Yeah. There's another bill that allows a person to wear a mask in public if they want. So if you go to a concert, the concert can't say, the public officials say you have to take that off. There's an exemption in there that says when you come in, you would have to show your face if they want to take a picture of you. It says it in that. But so it's but what's happened is none of those bills have moved since Weiner has done that. So I think they realize.
So in cases, I imagine that doesn't happen often, or if it does, when that does happen, when there are 2 or 3 bills that contradict another bill, and you push back on it, how do they usually respond?
I don't know. I'm not writing a letter. I'm not bringing it to their attention. I'm going to bring it up and maybe I doubt they'll listen to this, maybe get back to them. But I think they realize it because those bills should have already gone to appropriations and they haven't.
So they just stopped. They just stopped it in its tracks because it's more important for them to virtue signal against the president than it is for them to actually protect
it's a big deal.
The people that they want to protect.
A very big deal, yeah. All this legislation to stop people from, from immigration from doing their job. There's one senator had one that would require the same thing I told you about with schools within homeless shelters or battered shelters for women. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you all swore an oath to the Constitution. Section 1, Article 8, Clause 4 states that Congress has the authority to create naturalization laws, and they've done that with ICE. And you want to hinder it with this law. But I like this one senator because it protects women, and women need to be protected, especially after they've been battered. But it's really disingenuous because you allow men into women's shelters.
It just sounds like the argument especially when you lay it out like that, their logic is so I don't know any other word to describe it outside. It's just so retarded. It's just
what you're saying right now. They don't feel that same way, and they don't appreciate it that I do it. But I do it anyways because it needs to be said.
Well, I appreciate all the work that you do. I appreciate you going up there, taking time out of, out of work to go up there as consistently as you do. Every time I meet you, you're coming back from over there and you're talking, and it is important work that you do, David. I look forward to having you back several times to hear more of what you've been doing up there, because there's just so much going on, and I feel like most people aren't in tune with it. And like you said, a lot of the times by the time they find out, it's already like a year later, it's been approved and now it's being implemented. So it's a little late for that, right? So,
and it doesn't affect them until it affects them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's all sorts of laws, like you're not supposed to drive without a seatbelt, or you're not supposed to speed. How many people speed? Exactly. Until it affects them, it doesn't. But these things with schools and like the school implementing, it's like, how do you get away from that? You can't.
Yeah.
And depending on the school might enforce it and other schools might not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, how can people find you, David? And how can they keep up with all the stuff that you're doing?
Tune back into the defnoodles when I come back in.
Well,
I don't have
social media.
I have a social media. I have David V Bolog, BOLOG, V like in Victor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that fantastic, but you can see some things there. I mean, I'm hoping if I ever get some really pressing testimony, I put it up. There's one I did which would require lawyers when they renew their bar license. Mm-hmm. And I'm super proud of this because I really hold lawyers in high regards, because I really think they're the reasons why we're able to fight a lot of these bad laws, why we have the freedoms that we do. I mean, a lot of people say, think of that. I'm like, nah, think a lawyer. The lawyer is the one that's, and a lot of times, I mean, sometimes it's the lawyer's fault, but they wanted a bill that would require them to put down their pro bono hours when they renew their law license.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to talk to a lawyer who gave me some good points, and I made some testimony to where it created a 20-minute conversation on the dais.
That's good.
So I have that up there. I'm really proud of that.
You have that one on your...
And it actually changed it to where the state bar decided that you can opt out if you want.
That's
because
great.
There was no repercussions if you didn't. But what lawyer is not going to give the information that's asked when they're renewing their law license?
Uh-huh.
So there's an opt-out options for lawyers now, even
That's
though
great.
It's there. I mean, the whole point of it was that they were hoping that they would inspire lawyers to do more pro bono work. But I see like with a lot of these bills, it's like, what's going to come down years from now?
It could end up being coercive.
Yeah, to where it's like, and I made the point of like, hey, say you're a liberal working for a conservative firm, you want to go do some pro bono work on the weekends, and it's like, they might, even though this is confidential information, it's like, who hasn't gotten a letter that says your data has been breached?
Exactly.
And it's like, and they might not know exactly what you're doing, but they'll see that, oh, he's done these hours. Sir, who are you, they're going to wonder, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's like, that can affect
Why are you working for free?
Yeah, or why are you working on, what issue are you working on? How come we don't know about this? It could affect, it could actually stop a lawyer from doing that pro bono work that they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm really proud of that. So you go to my Instagram, it's there. You get my opinion, at least, if you want to check me out, you know.
Yeah.
There's other testimony that I put up there of people that I work with up in Sacramento that especially with AB 495, my colleague, Nicole Young from Placer, she's a Moms for Liberty member. She's done some work with CAUSE, Californians for Sex-Based Rights and Law and Policy. She's done some really good testimony, so.
It's great. Well,
somebody I get to work with, and she's not just on one issue; she's on a lot of issues like me. So
that's great.
If you can ever interview her, you'd be lucky.
I'll talk to her. Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I'd love to talk to her.
She's not in LA; she's in Placer. But if you could do it,
Yeah. Well, sometimes I have people from out of town whenever they are in town. That's and that's how I end up talking to them.
Okay.
But well, thank you so much, David.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time. This is very informative.
And get involved.
Yes.
Get involved on some level, whatever it is. Get involved. I mean. Watching a ball game's fun, but it's not going to affect your life like this is affecting your life, and you may not know it.
And it's not just your life, your kid's life, your grandkids' life, and it trickles down. And, I think a lot of times by the time people realize it, it's already too late. And then that's why so many people make the decision of like, oh, we're just going to get out of the state.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that the legislators' aides up there, their staffers told me that is like, and I always try to tell people that because they get depressed because something doesn't go our way. It's like legislation's never done. It can go this way. If they taken it this way, it can go back. So it's never done. So don't give up on it.
Don't give up.
Yeah. And it may, let's not look like how Benny Burnell was talking about the 25-year plan.
Yeah.
Look what they've done.
Yeah. They've done a lot.
That's what we need to start thinking about. Don't think about right now just this piece of legislation. Think about the future.
It's great. That's a great point to end on. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.